One of my duties here today is to try to help you pause for just a few more moments, focus your brain on what we have learned here today, because there's a lot of content. We started early. You probably have forgotten some of the threads. I've been keeping a few notes. Without the advantage of having a brain sensor, I'll have to just try to summarize a little bit about what we talked about. So here's some thoughts to go away with today. A couple of memorable quotes that I heard today. I'll make you a cello, and you're a piano. That was from Loretta Faviri with Somo. She made our bodies musical. Sensory technology was a large part of what we heard and did today. With Mayo, Chris Goodine walked us down the timeline of gesture control, from the time punching in time cards to remote controls to keyboards, and then touch control on our phones and tablets. Gesture control, he told us, is the next bold step. And then he flipped his slides around with a flick of his forearm. Ariel Gartner transformed the idea of Muse to a 21st century idea, a brain-sensing headband. Essentially, she told us, a clinical-grade EEG in a consumer package that you can get at Best Buy. It can track your brain in real time. The Brooks brothers and Robert Bruski showed us the value of two realities on one screen and showed us where Invisivision is leading, hoping to break into cinematic experience, a startup in its infancy breaking into Hollywood through the miracle of LinkedIn. Grant McCracken was our keynote speaker this morning, and he talked a lot about culture. He called it the secret weapon. It's where meanings come from, and it's the source of profit in his view. He warned that our models are broken, we're on our own, and explained that adapting to discontinuous change is what we do all the time. It's become an ordinary practice of business. And I was thinking about this idea of change management, which many people had been trained in a decade ago. It's almost obsolete. Change is every day. We're managing it all the time. It's not a separate department anymore, in many ways. He gave us some short points on culture. He said certain things are dying, like status. Meanings are multiplying. Culture is better. We're seeing the death of keeping it simple. Consumers are getting smarter. Hey, Netflix, they're not binging, they're feasting. He said culture is more dynamic and there's more participation. And to hammer in the importance of culture, which he admitted he's been banging on about for years, he said that Merriam-Webster Dictionary had named culture the word of 2014. The better we master culture, the better we are as marketers. He talked about a little bit about how people have done that, how we could do it, be counterintuitive, make a river run through your brand. He referenced an Oreo cookie approach. He said every public space is a performance space, and he used the Cole Haan example, drag queen pumps and hashtag don't go home. Very visual idea of how you can be counterintuitive. We heard a really interesting panel on YouTube indies and provoked us to think about the democratization of delivering content. We heard a lot about that in our last panel as well. The three stars, Matt, Bob, and Rachel, decoded the YouTube channel phenomenon, the entrepreneurial spirit, and what it takes to get 30 million views a month. It struck fear a bit into the hearts of some of us as legacy broadcasters, but it gave us a good look at YouTube partnerships, branding, and the merits and dangers of MCUs. What we learned, YouTubers, we're told, are some of the hardest working people. Collaboration is key. On demand is critical to success these days. So is interaction with your audience. Connecting with a person and trusting is really important. People who are their followers trust them as hosts on YouTube, and it was suggested that they trust their voices more than a message on a billboard, which means it's an incredible opportunity for a brand. They also told it that metrics are changing. Watch audience retention rates, not views only. Duration, is less important than content and consistency. And you need to respect your YouTube culture. If you're going to take that away into your business, put bright creative minds on the project, don't say it as a separate sort of leftover thing. We've got to get something on YouTube, do this YouTube thing. Make it key. This afternoon, Jerry Lahive talked to Clint B. Harry about big data and storytelling, how we get impact, how we measure it. We learned about storypilot.org, which apparently will be a free data mining resource that all of us can go to, eventually looking into fiction, books, marketing, journalism. He showed us how big data can show patterns and measure impact. It can measure reach, community building, amplification, and it appeals to storytellers, producers, and funders, and can give answers to all kinds of questions and goals. And he talked about what moves the graph in storytelling and showed the data behind it. We all have intuition, I certainly do in my own stories, about what moves the graph, but he's showing how it actually translates in big data. Our last panel, you remember more about it, I'm sure, talking about the author, the artist, and the brand, turning fans into customers, tips on how to mine your fans for engaged customers, mining data from social media, geolocating your fan base. An interesting idea about where to put advertising dollars and budgets, reminding people that the cost of engagement, so the cost of social media engagement, should be part of your thinking about budget, where you should spend your advertising budgets. We heard a lot about Wattpad, which I confess I wasn't familiar with, 80 million story uploads. You can test drive your writing, and you can find people like Anna who are writers just trying to get out. Shauna, I felt for you, our moderator this afternoon, when she said, I find it impossible to keep up. What are the top apps marketers need to pay attention to? Tango, Viber, Vine, Snapchat, Crowd, Album, Tunes, Speak, all of those. And it is a feeling I get at wonderful conferences like this that it's so much, how do we filter it, how do we get to what we need to know? And finding out things like this, hearing these people help us focus. Our lunchtime pitches, in a few words, were fascinating. We heard about putting music to stories, movement to still pictures, music as medicine. We heard about Wanderer, Blurby, Flixel, CineClick, JamCam, #paid, and Songs at Work. Look them up when you get home. 2 final points. Themes. You'll have your own. Here's some of mine. Entrepreneurial. It's huge. We've seen so many examples of really small to big success. Anna Todd told us, I was learning, they were learning. We were learning together. Matt Santora said, I left accounting when I made the same or more on YouTube. We heard about interactive, that trust and engagement and being authentic is really important in this new digital world. And all of them, of course, are using social media in so many different ways. I see it like an ink blot, which is spreading, 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 and you can use that to your advantage. Grant McCracken might tell us the key takeaway today is culture. Take what we learned and embed it in our businesses and endeavors. But Candace at Wattpad had a very interesting quote at the end of our day, and she summed it up saying, create the ability for people to create. I think that's interesting. Create the ability for people to create. All right, that's a few words about where we went today. I'd like to thank all the presenters, all the speakers, and all the organizers who do an awful lot of mining and filtering and focusing to find good people to engage and interest you who come to these conferences. It's not an easy task, and there's an awful lot of work that goes into putting on a conference like this. It's really inspiring to see Ontario companies adapting and being willing to share their experience to help the success of others. It's felt extremely collaborative here today. I hope that Digital Dialogue 2050 gave you some ideas about how you can apply this in your own businesses and help potential new collaborators or partners. And don't forget that we started the morning with $1 million on offer as of tomorrow, going live with OMDC's new Collaboration and Innovation Fund. Perhaps you'll find a way to mine that fund to make your new ideas into a reality. It's been a pleasure to be your host again here this year. It's, as I said at the beginning, I always take away much more than I give. You've been a great audience. It's really interesting speakers today, and I'm just going to ask Kevin Shea to say a few words. He's the chair of OMDC's Board of Directors, and he's going to close off the conference and send us all upstairs for a drink and some more networking. Thank you very much.